Hey y'all, my name is Eleanor. I graduated last spring, and right now I am finishing up my first year at Calvin University from home. And so this morning or afternoon or whenever, I would like to read y'all a passage from the book of Esther, beginning at the 4th chapter, verse 8. So if you have a Bible and feel like following along, Esther's between Nehemiah and Job, and it's pretty cool. I read it for like the first time in a while last week, and I was like, wow. So I guess some context before I start. The book of Esther is about Esther, and she is a Jewish orphan who has been raised by her cousin Mordecai in the Persian fortress city of Susa. And maybe if you've taken a world history class, you might recognize the name Susa. That is where, at the time of this book, King Xerxes is ruling his Persian Empire. And through a series of events, Esther becomes Xerxes' queen. So she is one of Xerxes' wives, the most powerful wife. Not exactly a co-ruler of the empire, but she's pretty close to King Xerxes himself. And she is Jewish, which causes a conflict when Xerxes issues this decree that says on a certain day, anyone in his empire can go out and kill a Jewish person without any repercussions. So as you might imagine, Esther's cousin Mordecai, the rest of her relatives, the rest of the Jews in the empire are all pretty terrified. There are a lot of lives on the line here, and Mordecai sends a message to Esther asking her to use her influence to plead with the king to get this decree repealed. And I'm going to read Esther's response and all the stuff there, and you can read it too. So let's go. Mordecai gave Hathach a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked Hathach to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked Hathach to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and plead for her people. So Hathach returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. Then Esther told Hathach to go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials, and even the people in the provinces, know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his gold scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him for 30 days. So Hathach gave Esther's message to Mordecai. Mordecai sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this? Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai. Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same. And then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I must die. So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. So there is a lot going on in this passage, but the one thing that really sticks out to me is in verse 14 when Mordecai asks Esther, who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this? And in this time, a time as this, when we're all social distancing and all our lives have been very much disrupted from how we thought they would be by coronavirus and the precautions we need to take to keep everyone healthy, I think it can be really easy to regard this time as a waste, to say, well, there's no way anything good or profitable is going to come out of this. There's no reason for me to try and do anything other than just keep up with my schoolwork or perhaps spend a lot of time on YouTube, and I'm not going to be that productive at all. But I would challenge us all, myself included, to think, what if perhaps God put us here for just such a time as this? What if God is not at all surprised by our circumstances? What if he's planning to work through us during them? And I do not claim to know what God working through us during these times would look like, but I found a good place to start is to just set aside time every morning, like when I'm eating breakfast, when I would be eating breakfast with my friends at school, to read my devotional and read the Bible and pray and just talk to God and listen and, see what happens, see what goes on with my faith. I've found it's a lot easier to focus on God and spend time listening to him than it would be if I were surrounded by a bunch of other people, even though I really love my friends and the people at college. So, yeah. I encourage you guys to do the same. Spend some time in God's Word and put some thought and reflection and maybe talking to him into your relationship with him during this time, because maybe you were made for just such a time as this. And that is all. Have a lovely rest of your day and a great weekend. Thanks.